After choosing empowerment over dread, I began searching for meaningful and effective solutions to put into practice in my own life. Progressive Hedonist is a podcast to share the ways we can take on climate change through food and joy. On days when this seems completely impossible, this podcast is a reminder that each of us can make an impact. I'm Dana Cowan. Join me in conversations with thought leaders like Alice Waters, Andrew Zimmern, Dr. Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson, and more. We can learn together what is possible. You can listen anywhere podcasts can be found and join the conversation on Instagram at progressive_hedonist.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
Since 2009, HRN podcasts have been exploring the wide world of food, beverage, and agriculture. Learn more at heritageradionetwork.org.
Whether you're a chef or just love going to restaurants, you know the best ingredients are everything. Westholme is working with the land to create nature-led Australian Wagyu. Learn more at westholme.com.
We talk about food, we talk about music, with musical dudes. Finger on the pulse, Snacky Tunes.
Hello and welcome to Snacky Tunes. I'm your host, Darren Bresnitz. Today we sit down with Xander Soren, the chief wine officer of Xander Soren Wines. Xander is making incredible Pinot Noir in the Russian River Valley here in California. We chat about his time at Apple when he helped develop some of the most popular programs like GarageBand and iTunes, his absolute love for Japan and Japanese culture, and we share some of his playlists that he loves to pair with his Pinots. And then we dive into the archives when singer-songwriter Sarah Jaffe swung by to share some of her acoustic folk, indie pop, hip-hop tracks. She was hanging out and chatting about her latest EP at the time, Smut. It's a great performance and a great episode. And if you can, this holiday season, please consider donating to Heritage Radio Network so we can help the good times roll right along. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy Snacky Tunes here on HRN.
Yeah. I had this feeling that I had been up on the inside. The floor to the ceiling had my body reeling, that's why I go hot and cold, pull me close, my temperature rising. I say, give me your touch, you're getting warmer. Hot and cold, pull me close. One hit, one wonder, one hit, one wonder, one hit, one wonder. One hit, one wonder, one hit, one wonder. You're mine. It's a look that you give me, I see it deep in your eyes. Like a force of nature that I'm too weak to deny. If my body language is your consolation to pass the time, let's put it in motion. I'm secretly hoping that's why I go hot and cold, pull me close, my temperature rising. I say, give me your touch, you're getting warmer. One hit, one wonder, one hit, one wonder, one hit, one wonder. You're mine. One hit, one wonder, one hit, one wonder, one hit, one wonder. One hit, one wonder, one hit.
Xander, welcome to Snacky Tunes. Let me start by saying thank you for sending over the wines. They were shared. They were delicious. They were fruity and crisp. So appreciate you sending down the goods for the fall season.
Oh, great to hear. And so nice to be here chatting with you.
Yeah. I first came across your name years ago when digging into Apple, because I remember you from GarageBand and iTunes and iPod. I remember putting 1,000 songs in the palm of my hand and being like, this is much different than just having Pulp on different class and on my CD Discman, and that's the only album I'm listening to for the day.
There was a lot back then, and I guess it's not that much today. Now it's like infinite songs.
It's infinite now.
Right.
What drew you into the tech world? What drew you into music and taking your two loves and putting them together?
Yeah, so I mean, so I'm a Gen Xer, child of the '80s. So I grew up in that area that not only was there no social media, there were no computers, and obsessed with technology as a kid, and also an Apple fanboy from like just the early days. Like I literally remember seeing somebody wheel in a cart with that first Apple II in my school, and just my head exploded. And then so I had one of the first Mac, the original Macintosh, in 1984, and that was why I was just obsessed with my Mac, and that was the first computer that allowed you to be creative. It switched from the the green text on a CRT to something where you could actually draw and create and see typefaces and fonts. So yeah, I was always really obsessed with technology and computing, and I eventually went to University of Wisconsin, and I think like a lot of people didn't necessarily know what I wanted to be doing.
Sure.
I knew I wanted to be involved in technology, but I didn't know how to get there. And I had parents that really pushed me into medicine. Sure. And after a couple semesters of chemistry, I realized that was not going to work out for me. And then in a very roundabout way, and then I was also a late blooming musician. I didn't pick up acoustic guitar until I was about 19. So this was in college as well. And then like a lot of things I do, I'm a very passionate person and I get obsessed and focused. So I was that guy in our house that played Pink Floyd Wish You Were Here on my acoustic guitar until everybody wanted to jump out the window. But, so that started my musical journey, which eventually took me into, I would say, like kind of the mid 90s. I was super into kind of emerging trip hop, like Massive Attack, Portishead.
Oh, yeah.
I kind
first
of like
Portishead album, all time. The first two, actually.
Amazing, right? Amazing. I think they've actually been doing some work again, or they've been touring, or doing some things. I had friends that just saw Air in concert, which I was just
Safari,
also kind of
start to finish, yeah.
So that same era. So I basically played guitar and bass and had a great group of musician friends. I was in a band with the drummer of the Sugar Cubes, Siggy Balderson.
We just had them on his new project a few episodes back. Yeah.
Small world. Yeah. So he happened to be in Madison, Wisconsin because his wife was doing postdoc work, I think in biochemistry, ironically enough. So that was kind of, I was at the right place, right time for just, being in music. And this was when you started seeing early Pro Tools rigs. I was also at that point, I'd graduated. I still didn't really know what I wanted to be doing long term, but we, with a friend, we started a publishing company, kind of serving University of Wisconsin. So I kind of had some marketing interest in music. I was dabbling in early web design. So Smart Studios in Madison, Butch Vig's studio, famous for like Smashing Pumpkins, Nirvana, Garbage. I basically traded like, hey, I'll build your website for you if I could use your studio during downtime. So that
I love
was
the
like
90s. What a time!
Yes,
what a time! What a time!
Amazing, right? It's just like you knock on the door, like I'd love to do your website for you.
Hey man, do you want to do some trades? And they're like, yeah, cool, no problem.
Right. So long story short, there was a company you might have remembered called Sonic Foundry. And they had kind of one of the early looping music software called Acid. So it was kind of like, having the right set of experience at the time of like, I'm a local musician, I'm interested in technology. The company had just like IPO'd and they were, they grew really fast. They imploded, just as fast during that era. But I was there as a product manager working not only on that Acid software, but also this was the early days of kind of MP3s and, the Napster era, and when people had, more music than they knew what to do with, and really small devices that couldn't really hold songs. You were talking about the iPod earlier. So after that company, kind of imploded a bit, it was the exact time where Apple was having this resurgence in, digital media and interests in music. So I was relocated, from Madison over to the Bay Area.
Sure.
And so I kind of started as the original product manager for iTunes. And one of my first projects was the first iPod. Thousand songs in your pocket. So just, thrown right into the eye of the storm. And then there was a period of time at Apple where it was also very, very startup-like. And I think, Steve had kind of turned the company around, and he was a big fan of small teams. If you had ideas, just throw them into the mix. And there was a lot of things happening around like iPhoto, iDVD back then, iMovie, and so there's a small group of us that were like, hey, we should develop some music creation software so that people could create. And that led to the acquisition of a company called eMagic at the time, who was famous for having Logic. And Logic was essentially that. We kind of call it the Formula One model, where you've got this race car engine and all this great technology. Let's turn that into something that everybody can use and drive and have this high performance thing that's very easy to use. So yeah, really, really blessed to be like in at my favorite company and now as an adult working on music, which was really the technology that turned Apple around. Like it was really the success of iPod and like creativity built around the Mac that started the epic turnaround into the company they are today.
No, and it's incredible. And there's so many themes in there of there's curation, but then also the ability to just take so much music and so much media and consume it. But then also creation in a way that allows you to get in a way that hadn't been before. And I could see a lot of those parallels in what you've built with your wine company. But how did you make those steps from I'm working in technology, it's sprints all the time, I'm working X amount of hours a week. When did you be like, okay, maybe the food isn't just Soylent and maybe the drink isn't just Diet Coke? Like when did the finer things start creeping in? Especially you're in the Bay Area in a time that was arguably one of the most legendary times in the dining scene there.
Right. Yeah, the wine thing was a little bit like technology was very straightforward. It's like I was a kid, loved technology, and that led straight there. The wine thing was a little bit, more roundabout. It started a little bit with my love of Japan. So I think the wines that I'm doing, they started by the idea of trying to create an elegant California Pinot for Japanese food. And the way I got there, if I look back, like it wasn't as obvious to me at the time, but more obvious in retrospect, is that I loved Japanese culture like at every turn when I was growing up. So it was from kids' TV shows to anime that I was watching. The original 1980 Shogun miniseries was something that just kind of blew my mind.
Read the
just
book
culturally and everything. Yeah, everything about that. My dad took me to see Kurosawa's Ran, and that got me into like Kurosawa and kind of the Japanese history and culture. So, and then of course the food. The food's amazing, but like 80s, 90s, that was kind of a very Americanized Japanese food. And it wasn't until I went to Japan on a business trip where it all kind of hit. I'm like, oh, I really have always loved this culture, and I've never had real Japanese food. Now I kind of get it.
Yeah,
the bar is so much higher there.
That's a sad moment. Not a sad moment, but a real opening moment. I think it's shifted now, obviously, especially on the West Coast. But you're like, wait, Taco Bell isn't real Mexican food? Especially in the 90s, you thought you were getting something that was not what it was. But
there is absolutely like now authentic, really, really great Japanese food. But it was more of like growing up. It's like I had an affinity for that kind of food. But I think when I went to Japan, like it kind of everything hit together from the culture. I love the people. I love just watching how clean and polite and how the society worked together and just attention to detail, how little things were important. Interestingly, I think Apple and Steve Jobs, there was a lot of love and appreciation of Japanese culture and design going back to his childhood and just falling in love with like woodblock prints at his friend's, mother's den. Like she had all these classic Japanese artwork that he kind of fell in love with that. If you go back to the original Mac and look at some of those early marketing materials, there are like Japanese woodblock, like a woman combing her hair. That was a big part of that campaign. So it tied into that as well.
So I remember the first time I went to Japan, my buddy gave me advice. He's like, you got to treat it like you're going back because it's so dense and there's so much. And we only hit 2 cities. But as someone who's gone so much, I'd love if you could share a couple of your favorite spots, record shops, restaurants, wine bars. What are those places you're like, I'm off the plane, I'm off the bullet train, I'm going straight there?
Yeah, so I would say in terms of like music, so I have a lot of friends there that are DJs, and I think I saw you have a DJ background. I'm kind of curious, like musically, what you're into. But there's a place called Oiran, which is not far from Shibuya Station. It's just a standing bar that plays like great house, and they have great DJs there. So that was always the place for everybody. We like kind of started our night, just go there, have a beer, have some sake and chat, and then kind of go out for the evening. There also kind of Shibuya area, there's a place called Tama. And I think if you did a Google search, you'd want to look at Ryukyu Chinese Tama, because Ryukyu is Okinawa. So it's a chef who is half Okinawan, half Chinese from his parents. And he does a fusion of both those styles. And it's also a wine bar. So there's basically the walls are surrounded, you're surrounded by wine. He's at the counter cooking for you, like right in front of you. And we've become really, really great friends over the years. And I'm his DJ. So I do all of his music programming there.
That's awesome.
Happy to send you some playlists if you want to check out.
I would love some playlists.
Yeah.
I think one of the things I realized when I was in Japan, I had made a mistake at the first restaurant I went to. I was trying to go to this Tsukumen Dipping Noodles restaurant. I wound up at the wrong spot, and I didn't realize it was the wrong spot until later in the trip, because the first one I went to had a menu that offered 6 or 7 different types of food. There was all the stuff, and I realized that the best spots was very narrow, and it was just that repetitive nature of refinement. And I see that in the wine that you make and the work that you've done, where it is this dedication. And while it might seem like a narrow focus, there's so much space and depth within that focus. Is that part of the Japanese culture that interests you as well?
Well, I think there are a lot of things I mentioned before, this attention to detail, and how people just take little things seriously. They will focus on, and it's not me. Like, I'm somebody that likes to have a lot of irons in different fires. It's, you probably know, like the apprentice model of like, hey, somebody's got to cook rice for years before they graduate to the next step of being trained to be a sushi chef. But yeah, I think I've always really, really appreciated like the passion and dedication they have to their cuisine. And it's not just fine dining. You're talking about, like, you go into a hole in the wall or a casual little place, and the food that they focus on is going to be amazing. So a little bit of, kind of completing my story and my journey, like in wine related to that, is that, as I started traveling there, now I'm living in California, and I'm, surrounded by great wines, and, going up to Napa and Sonoma with my friends on the weekends. I actually had 2 college buddies that started a winery, and almost like right out of the gate, they were making some of my favorite Pinots in the world. Which
is insane. Out of the gate, good Pinot is incredible.
Yeah, so shout out to them, like Chad and Bob from Furthermore Wines.
Oh yeah, shout out.
It's a little bit like, I think one of our big goals at Apple over the years was to kind of democratize technology. Mm-hmm. So take things that were out of reach, like take everything in a big recording studio and put that into your laptop so that mere mortals can create music. That has started happening in the wine world as well with custom crush facilities. So basically, instead of having to buy vineyards, having to buy the equipment, you go to a place where there are wine experts, there's all the equipment that's needed, and people pull together and they shared that and can create wine. So they started doing that, and then very quickly made great wine and graduated into buying their own facilities. And I just said, like, hey, guys, can I work in the corner and do like a little small batch production of my own, which I started bringing to Japan. and I very quickly had the goal of like, hey, I'm seeing in Japan that not only, is there all this amazing food, but they're experimenting with wines. And at that point this is, let's say like 15 years ago, they're also very enamored with French wines. Because I think Burgundies, in particular, Pinot Noir, pair really well with their cuisine. So, and I love Pinot Noir as well. So as I started seeing that happening, I'm like, this could be a fun project of let's buck the trend of where I think a lot of people around the world think of California as only like big, bold, fruity wines. Like, let's show them, hey, you can make an elegant, Burgundy, old world style wine with California fruit. And I would just go there and, I made like 25, 50 cases a year. And I'd meet with my chef and sommelier friends and get feedback over the years. So it was kind of a 10-year journey before I actually launched the brand and, essentially designed a wine that I thought would pair really, really well with a wide variety of Japanese food.
That's amazing. All right, I want to take a musical break real quick because I want to talk about that journey and get into some of the nuances of it. And then also talk about some of the music that you've paired with your wine on your playlists. So we have a song from the archives here on Snacky Tunes on HRN. Welcome back to Snacky Tunes. We're here with Xander Soren, CWO, that's Chief Wine Officer of Xander Soren Wines. And you gave us sort of the big brush cliff notes of just like, oh, my friends had a winery, so I made some wine in a corner, and I did that for a decade. I want to dig a little bit deeper into that.
Yeah.
I've seen the crush facilities. I also know, and a lot of people may not be aware of this, that like you don't even have to own a farm anymore. Like you can buy grapes, you can blend them with a winemaker, you can slap a really nice label on it, and all of a sudden you're a winemaker. I would love for you just to take us through that first 2012 process, because you knew you wanted to do Pinot, which I feel like is half the battle of just knowing what grapes you wanted to start with. But did you buy? Did your friends grow them? Like, what was those early days? Like, how did it actually get started?
Yeah, and the fancy name for what you just described, if you went to France, is like, oh, I'm a negociant, which means that you're purchasing, grapes from farmers that you trust and have that relationship, but don't own the vineyards, and that's kind of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So going back to 2012, and this is all really built around watching my friends making amazing wines and having access to great vineyard relationships. So I started, and this is a big theme with how I make wines. It's all about blind tasting and removing perception from your decision making, right? So in that case, I took 8 different vineyards of different wine samples, tried them all, and I did that 2 years in a row, and I picked the exact same 2 vineyards each time. So there was something that spoke to me about them, and they were both from the Central Coast. One was La Encantada in the Santa Rita Hills, and the other was Sierra Mar in Santa Lucia Highlands. And I think a lot of my program today is still built around Santa Rita Hills. And I learned a little bit more. I learned a little bit more why that works with Japanese food, because at first it was just like, I like Japanese food. My palate is telling me a certain thing. Let's do that. And then, so I started making these, small batches and, experimenting with blending. And then I would bring those wines to Japan, and then out of the gate, I got really, really great, responses and feedback on them. And the thing that I had learned is that if you look at the United States has, the West Coast goes north-south, but there's this one part that cuts hard like east-west, and that's outside of Santa Barbara where Santa Rita Hills is. So you get an entirely different ocean, and wind flow that happens there, and kind of a different terroir. And whenever sommeliers describe tasting notes from that region, they're talking about like sea spray and saline notes. And sometimes they'll throw in like nori, that seaweed kind of thing. And those happen to be like the perfect flavors to support umami, which is what Japanese cuisine is built around. So kind of like a little bit of in a lucky way, I wound up focusing on that area, work with, 4 different vineyards from Santa Rita Hills, in addition to vineyards that are a little closer to me. But yeah, I wound up, bringing something that the Japanese didn't really know as much about all the different wines that are possible from California, and then focusing on a region that it turns out is really complementary for their cuisine.
You're making the wine and you're testing it, and you're talking about taking it outside of the country, but you're still at Apple. Did anyone get a bottle? Did anyone know what you were doing? Did anyone ever think of it more than just a hobby, or were you thinking these lives are separate?
Yeah, and it was absolutely a hobby, but also I was transparent about the hobby, and I gave bottles to coworkers as gifts and stuff like that. But so I would always, I think it was even starting in 2010 was my first trip to Kyoto in the fall, and other than COVID, like every single year I go back. I'm getting ready to go back now.
Incredible.
So it was just anytime I had like Thanksgiving or Christmas holiday. We had time off, I would go out there, and it was a chance to just, experience the culture, but then also bring bottles, along and get feedback. So I think like 2012 to let's say like 2019, I would call like this hobby period. And I think around 2019 is when I knew that, hey, one day I may want to do this full time. Winemaking is a very slow process. So I retired from Apple in fall of 22. But still, like, the wines that I release are aged, for 4 years. So
yeah, of course.
It's kind of like, okay, one day I'm going to get there. So let's start increasing production. Started working with my winemaker, Shalini Shaker, who's award-winning, amazing winemaker. So yeah, that's when I started increasing production. But it really wasn't until 2023 after I left Apple, where I said, okay, this is going to be a business. I'm going to start selling these wines. I launched them first in Japan for a year. So part of that was just to show my intention and show the culture like, hey, no, I'm serious. This is a California wine kind of designed for Japanese food. So did it there, started selling it there for about a year to tremendous response. I like kind of couldn't believe the number of like Michelin star restaurants and luxury hotels that just started carrying and supporting them. And then it's only been 4 months here in the US. So it's still a pretty new brand here in the US.
So for those who might not be familiar with the Japanese wine market, what is the volume? What's the spend? What's the desire for it? You know, I've seen the trend pieces of people pairing wine with sushi, but I have to imagine it goes deeper than that.
Yeah, and I think if like at the the beginning of not only eating food, Japanese food here, but then going there, you think of like beer and sake as a, and I love those two with sushi and Japanese food. But I think Japanese are also they're very curious and open-minded to other countries and cultures. So I think that you see a lot of fusion food. If you have French or Italian food in Japan, it'll probably be some of the best you've ever had. So if you meet a sommelier in Japan, they are a serious, they'll know everything about French and Italian wines. And yeah, as I mentioned before, like French wines are very popular there. They're pretty pricey. They've gotten very, very pricey, especially Burgundy wines over the last 5-10 years or more. The yen has also been a little weaker, so that makes it, even more expensive there.
No, of course.
So my wines are premium priced, and with the strong dollar and weaker yen, it's a little tougher there, but still a lot less than Burgundies for them. So I don't have like the actual like the numbers in terms of course. But you'll see. Yeah, I think there's different tiers. There's if you go to an izakaya and you can drink sake that's really inexpensive, and then there are people that throw down and have $500 bottles, when they go to a nice place. Pretty similar with wine. You can start affordable and go to a wine bar, have natural wines there by the glass, and then you get into situations where people are paying thousands of dollars. I'm on the lower end of the scale, but still a premium wine.
No, of course. You're in Japan. It's going well. And you know that you need more wine. How do you scale? How do you know what amount of wine to make and your pre-market?
Yeah, the scaling part is tough. It's like the classic, go back to like lemonade stand, early video games. It's okay. I'm making a wine. It's why we call it ultra boutique. I make like 400 or 500 cases a year, and the decisions to start making more, which we've done. Once you make that decision, it's going to be 4 years before those wines get to the market. Yeah. So it's a very slow kind of gradual. And I do like having it be a little bit more on the boutique, smaller side, as opposed to, hey, let's blow this up and make 10,000 cases a year. So it's kind of baby steps along the way in terms of, accommodating the demand. But we did have at the beginning of the summer, I make one of my premium wines, or my premium wine is called Ludion. It's like my black label premium, like high end blend. It's my most expensive wine there, and it's sold out. So we had this like 2-month period where it was sold out in Japan. We had to wait for my distributor to get the next, ship and container scheduled. I jokingly called it like the Ludion relief mission. To get a bunch more cases, which just arrived last month. So yeah, the reception's been great, but yeah, things move way, way more slowly in operations and just winemaking, certainly than they did in tech, where everything is just lightning speed and you can move really, really fast.
So now that you're into this new era of your business and there's expansion and things like that, are there any lessons from Apple that you've brought with you to winemaking in your business that maybe you haven't seen anywhere else in the same field?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of great wines out there. And I think, working at Apple, one of the things I would say is the creative and intellectual horsepower that's at that company. The people that are passionate and talented is amazing. And my father I grew up with my dad being an industrial designer for Motorola, who created the original first flip phone. I was always kind of surrounded by design, not only like growing up, but also at Apple. So I think one of the things I'd like to think that I brought to my wine, not only let's raise the bar and try to make something of incredible quality. It's also the visual identity of the brand, which was equally important to me. So trying to not only make a bottle that looks beautiful, but I think with the wines that I sent you, I'm also I looked at a lot of like really cool packaging that was
Beautiful
happening
packaging.
in Japan,
Yeah.
and created like gift boxes and packaging that every customer gets. So if you order, my wine, it comes in this really nice packaging system. But also the photography for my brand, like I do it all in Japan. So I have a photographer friend, and we travel around the country together, having great meals and drinks. But then during the day, we'll go to temples and gardens and shoot the bottles there. So I think, so I think if somebody like kind of looks at my wines, they probably, and I've even heard like this looks like a wine that somebody from Apple would have created, and I think it's partially how it's presented and marketed and what the whole brand identity looks like.
I mean,
so obviously
a
big compliment to me when people say that.
Yeah, and it's a gorgeous boxing and packaging system. And I even just took one of the individual wines to La Cita the other week, and they have a great natural wine program. And the sommelier was like opening it. He's like, wow, this is the design on the outside, and the box packaging is just, it feels elegant, and it does have that same weight and feel when you open up an iPhone in so many ways.
Well, what's funny about that, a little bit like the inside baseball, is that I fell in love with this box of sake that I really liked. And I eventually was introduced to the CEO, and he introduced me to the design firm that did that box. And then when I met with them, they're like, oh yeah, we were inspired by the iPhone. So it was, I wound up using kind of a different designer and manufacturer, but it was inspired by that, very eco-friendly, really precise, like cardboard, with the foil. Yep. And it's wound up being a tie back to an Apple product.
It's amazing. So you alluded to earlier about making playlists for your chef friend in Japan. What wine do you like to pair with the music you like, and what music do you like to pair with the wine? And I would say maybe when you're drinking it, but also maybe when you're making it and you're sort of tinkering in the lab.
Yeah, I think when I first started making wine, so let's like rewind 10 years, I've gone through lots of different musical phases, throughout my life, as have we all. I would say like 10 years ago, when I was just starting to make the wines, I was really into kind of indie disco, especially a lot of Australian bands like Cut Copy, Bag Raiders, Empire of the Sun, that kind of stuff. And then, so that was like the early days of my wine brand. And then kind of got a little older. We went through COVID, here we are today. And I've gotten a little bit more into like chill wave. So similar like 80s synth inspiration, but a little more instrumental, a little more contemplative and introspective. So, bands, I would say like Tycho, Brother Tiger, Hotel Pools, Contras. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I love the idea of blasting Shooting Stars in your early days and making a very refined Pinot.
That's probably appeared on at least one of my Instagram reels. So that's a fun track.
So now that you're in America, and I know that you're serving in a very limited amount of restaurants, especially and some are in LA, and that's because there's a selection of wine. It's not a huge quantity. How have you made those choices of where to sell the wine at restaurants, to distribute? How do you find that balance? Like, what's the ultimate goal of people being able to drink it?
Right. Yeah, so it's very, very different models because obviously I don't live in Japan, so I need to rely on distributors there. I've laid a lot of groundwork with relationships. So with the distribution, it's mainly restaurants and hotels. So I was like out of the gate, like I think considered one of the best sushi restaurants in Tokyo, Sushi Saito, carried my wine. And then that was just the immediate blessing for like, oh, Saito carries it, must be good. So thank you to him because it opened a lot of doors. But, hotels like Park Hyatt and Ritz-Carlton and stuff like that, they've been carrying my wines. Here in the U.S., very, very different. So I wanted to make it a little bit more directly accessible to people and have a direct relationship with my customers. So really 99% of it is going to my website, becoming a member, which is free, and then ordering wines directly from me. That said, there are a handful of restaurant relationships I have. So the people that carry my wines in the U.S. are friends. So it's sommeliers or chefs that I'm friends with from Single Thread Farms, I think is where we did our launch event here, and Nikki Nakayama's
Shout
place
out.
in LA carries it. But that's going to be a fun thing for me. 4 months into this project, I've got years ahead where I want to be traveling the U.S., introducing the wines more, meeting some more, restaurants and wine shops around the country.
So now that this is your day job, and you're all in, what is the goal? What's your 3-year, 5-year stretch plan, moonshot? What would you ultimately like to see Xander Soren Wines become?
Yeah, kind of alluding to what I just said. I think it's traveling more. It's trying to, it's a fun job, basically having a wine with my name on the label where
Sure.
I can go into a great restaurant, open it with friends, or, make new friends with the wine. So that's what's really about it. So it's getting around more, both within the US and in Japan. I think because the wines, we're talking about making 400 to 600 cases per year. It's really focusing on those two countries for now. So here in the U.S. As well as Japan. So I see the future being, gradually increasing supply to meet demand, but also just trying to travel more and be my own brand ambassador and make new friends through my wines.
Amazing. Well, congratulations. If people want to sign up for the mailing list or follow along on social, where can they go?
Yeah, so they go to XanderSorenWines.com, Xander with an X, of course. On Instagram, I start pointing people towards my Japan Instagram because it's been around a little longer. So Xander Soren Wines JP. And then without the JP is the US site. But it's kind of fun to see what we've been doing in Japan and all the different kind of chefs and hotels and people that have been enjoying the wines there.
That's amazing. Well, listen, congratulations. Thanks again for the wine. It's delicious. I'm actually holding back. I haven't had the premium bottle yet. I'm saving that for
Right.
for the holiday season. Big thanks to Anne for setting this up. We have another song from the archives and then a live performance here on Stacky Tunes on HRN.
In northern Australia, there's a different approach to raising high-quality beef. Westholme looks after a sweeping stretch of territory from Brisbane to Darwin, with a climate as varied as the landscape. Wet seasons in the summer, dry seasons in between, every few hundred miles a different terrain, from lush wetlands and grassy plains to watering holes and ancient rocky land features. Westholme raises Wagyu beef, but there's a saying around Westholme that the real job is to grow grass, meaning that if they take care of the land, the rest will take care of itself. Cattle are happier when they have the freedom to forage and explore, so Westholme ensures they can roam wild, foraging at will for the first 2 to 3 years of their lives. Their cows graze on native grasses like Mitchell grass, which is found only in Australia, along with dozens of other plants, herbs, and seasonal legumes. Westholme's team of rangeland experts and nature managers use a variety of tools to monitor and respond to the welfare of the environment, like satellites that assess grass health and on-the-ground research. The result is signature Australian Wagyu, built on a genetic lineage tracing back to Japan, imbued with the terroir of this changing landscape, and a flavor that complements every cuisine. Westholme believes that when nature leads, flavor follows. Learn more and experience the difference for yourself at westholme.com.
Hello and welcome back to Snacky Tunes. I am one half your host, Greg Bresnitz.
And I'm Jeet Paul. And in the studio today, we have an amazing musician, Sarah Jaffe. So it says that you're from Texas.
From Texas,
Right.
yes.
And you've been writing music for a long time.
A long time.
Right. And your resume is quite impressive, as I see. It says that you scored and contributed original music to the independent film Never Going Back. You co-wrote and sang on Bad Guy by Eminem, which is insane.
It was a wild card, yeah.
Yeah, no shit. Right? And you also contributed to the voice of the Blue Umbrella.
Yes, John Bryan.
That's amazing.
It was cuckoo.
So what was it like growing up in Texas?
I love Texas. It's, I mean, my childhood was pretty boring. But I think I just had so much space to do whatever I wanted, and all that space kind of left me to my imagination, which I think was really kind of pivotal for what I wanted to do. So a lot of time on my hands. Yeah.
So when did you get into music then?
I mean, I started pretty straight. Because I moved to Los Angeles when I graduated high school. So I was 18, and I got my ass kicked. Los Angeles kicked my ass, man. So I came back after almost a year there. So I really got my start in Texas in like 2005, 2006.
What happened in LA?
Oh, just like a slew of parking tickets. And I had a job. I literally had a job for 6 hours, and then I got fired. I worked at a bagel shop in Santa Monica, and I told him I couldn't work Sundays, and this is when I was working. And he was like, oh, well, then I'm going to have to let you go. And I was like, oh, my God. It was eye-opening. I think I just thought that I would go there, and it would be like just naming lights and amazing, and the seas would part for me. And that is not the case. It's never been the case. So it was a good learning experience, and I came back to Texas really just with a lot of ambition and just my sights set on, making my first record and then the second. So it's just been like a really wonderful progression and a lot of amazing lessons along the way.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
But before Los Angeles, like, how did you get into music? Like, what was your first artist that really kind of drove you into like, oh, wow, this is something I want to do for the rest of my life?
I mean, I think it really just came from my appreciation, that my parents gave me. So
Are your parents musical?
Yeah, my mom's side especially. I mean, I started singing probably 13, 14, in churches with her. So I think it was probably them. So, I mean, it's been... I mean, you did ask me, when did I actually start, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say 13, 14. I just started doing those kinds of shows, and yeah.
You said your mom's side of the family was musical. Who and in what way?
What did you ask?
Your mom's side of the family was musical?
Oh, yeah. My mom was just constantly singing. And
Your mom sang all the time?
all the time, yeah. In church, she would, she had a really lovely alto voice. And so the church choir was always like, Malia, you take the lead on this one. So she always had the church solo. And so watching her, and also, my cousins were very, very musical, and I always looked up to them. So it was just that side of the family, and my dad's side of the family really kind of gave me the starting out taste, like a ton of James Taylor, Cat Stevens.
Nice.
So that's kind of how I, stumbled to playing folk music in the very, very beginning. And
Do you remember when you first started recording?
yeah, there was a friend of mine, that I had in high school that I would just go to his house, and he had like a little just computer set up. So I started recording then, and I shortly after recorded an EP that was in 2005. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think that first EP really kind of launched the next full-length record, which was Suburban Nature, which was in 2011, and that's when I really started touring.
And this was all in Texas?
Yep, all in Texas.
What was it about the Texas music scene that you felt was more opportunist for you to develop your musical career versus the short stint in LA?
Just the musicians that I met, there was, I think Texas kind of lends itself to this hospitable attitude. And so there was a lot of accessibility just with the people that I met that were just down to play. Like, it wasn't about money, or no one had any preconceived notions about, like, what was in it for them. So I really, it was just, like, hospitable people that were down to play or down to record on records. And I've always found Texas musicians to be like that. They're still, like, just some of the nicest, coolest. I mean, Rob, who's playing drums with me today, you're Texas, baby. So, I mean, and I've met my whole band just because everyone just wanted to play music together. And it's just a very, very egoless kind of mindset in a lot of the scenes. Dallas, Denton, great places. Yeah.
That's really cool. You want to jump to a song?
Yeah, can we hear a song?
Sure.
I'm going to jump back in there.
Hi, G.
What are you going to play for us first?
I'm going to play a song with Rob called Dark Energy.
Dark energy, stay away from me. I'm gonna fight for myself. Lethargy, you can go to hell. You were never really a friend to me. I hear it takes a long, long while to feel the ripple or the tear. Two black holes collide. Space-time continuum. Dark energy, stay away from me. Wanna be good to myself.
Right as I opened my eyes, I watched someone take such a delicious looking bite. It was the first thing I saw, and I.
Do you always
Grateful.
sing with your eyes closed?
Yeah, I do.
So eyes open, bite
Eyes
of pizza.
open, bite of pizza. Time for a song, eyes closed.
It's just get you
Yeah.
into space.
I don't know. It's just something that I do. I prefer to like think about the song in like a very focused way, and for some reason, like not seeing anything really helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about the 2 EPs that came before. This Is Better.
Yeah.
Sounded like it was a very, very difficult EP to write. Do you want to like talk a little bit about the process of that?
Sure. I was going through a icky breakup, and at that exact time, I had just started to write for other artists. I just finished the score that I did for Never Going Back, and just really loved the top lining, like writing songs for other people. I loved that environment, and just kind of more so the headspace that it put me in, which was, you know, sometimes the more you think about yourself and your song, like the more your ego drives it. And
Yeah.
I like just the creative aspect of just jumping into writing with no ego. And that world just kind of put me in that constant mindset of like, just like churning it out and creating a schedule and a routine for myself. And so I started writing these pop songs with a good friend and a great producer. His name's Aaron Kelly. And during this process, I was like, oh no, this feels like something that I want to release. I want to perform these songs. I want to take them on the road. I just was attached to them mainly because of what I was going through. And so I ended up kind of using this whole top lining process as a vessel to get these songs out. So I was just like, well, fuck it. Let's just release these songs and put them as 2 EPs, and that's what happened.
What was it like working with Aaron?
Lovely. He's just been I'm filled with gratitude that having met him, and he's just a cool producer. Like,
Is he from Texas as well?
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of Texas people in your life.
Yeah, and he works a lot, in the commercial world, and so there's a quickness that really satiates, because I'm just impatient in the studio. Like, I need to hear something a certain way, and a lot of times I have trouble getting there mentally, just to make that mental jump a lot of times and translate the ideas that I have in my head a lot. And Aaron and I just have a really good kind of ping pong banter relationship.
Like, did you come to the table with like lyrics, or did he come with,
Oh, no,
like,
we started each day. Like, he was like, what kind of song do you want to make?
Yeah,
and I would be
yeah.
like, oh, let's do more up-tempo. Like, he would just kind of make a beat, and I would just start singing melodies. A lot of these songs were just started as melodies, and then I would just kind of go back and insert the filling and play keys on top of it, but they're all built around beat. So
Interesting.
and just not hearing, sometimes a bass line will help, but I need as much space within that beat so that I can just kind of create a melody, verse, chorus, and so on.
And how do you capture a song about heartbreak?
I mean, you got to go through that shit, right? I really do think that it's so grossly precious, but that's where you are. You just, there's no denying it. And so that's where I was. And it was also kind of a lifesaver. It was a way for me to get out of it, because once I started making music, and it just kind of cleared the pathway a little bit for me to see that it's just something I can depend upon. It's just been so healthy for me to have that as just a spine in my life, that I can create something from just a gross situation. So I think to write something, that's heartfelt or about heartbreak, you got to feel that.
Yeah, it sounds like it was
Yeah.
very cathartic.
Yeah.
And so going from that to the new EP, Smut, what was the Actually, let's talk about that first. Very interesting way that title came about. Do you want to tell the story?
Yeah, actually, Danny, my girlfriend's roommate, got this. What part of Virginia is she from? Roanoke. Yeah. She got this voicemail from someone in Roanoke, Virginia. And it wasn't, Katie had no idea who this woman is. Oh, shit, I gave her what name on me. She had no idea who this woman was, but it was very much like a Virginia accent. And it also sounded like a family member that a few actually that I have in Beaumont, Texas. Just country ass accent. And it's actually the voicemail that you hear. I was like, oh shit, Danny, is there any way? I was in the middle of like sampling shit. I just love to sample and make my own samples. And I was like, can you please ask your roommate if I can chop this up and stretch it out and make this into the intro song? So this voicemail is how I landed on that title. I was like, oh, this is amazing.
Are you still reading smut? Give me a call. I got my cell phone. I love you. Bye.
That was great. That was amazing. I'm so happy she let you use that. And how did it change? You went through the cathartic of the previous EPs, and what joy filled this one, or how did you feel elated in this process?
Oh God, man, in so many ways. It was like, those moments in your life when you like army crawl your way out of a situation, and there's just like a part of you that's like, I'm alive, music was this like breath into my depleted world, where I just started writing again and just really taking in every opportunity. So I was just having a lot of fun. And so I, once again, like the music that I was writing was just reflecting that in every way. And it was the first time I'd been single in a long time. And I was living alone for the first time in my adult life, which was incredible. And of course, since moving here, my situation is very different. But I had, like an amazing apartment and was living downtown in Dallas, Texas, and just really soaking up every opportunity and every studio opportunity, just saying yes to pretty much everything, and just felt so rewarded during that time, and wanted to make a really fun EP.
You worked with Aaron on this too, right?
Yeah.
Was the approach any different than the last one?
Yeah, I mean, there's always just a bit more confidence with each time you record, just because you know that something can be transformed from scrap.
Yeah.
All I had was a voicemail, and we made something that was so fucking funny and cool. And it was just, I think I just felt more confident about what I could make.
Do you guys like sit in a room and be like, hey, this is what I'm feeling, and you guys just talk a bit, and then it's kind of just
weird. It's exactly what it is. It's just like Aaron and I are just kind of like an unlikely pair. Like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like a lot of times when you walk into a studio, there's a lot of times where you don't know somebody.
Yeah.
And you can just sit down and it's like a conversation. So Aaron and I just we have a lot to talk about, and we just get a lot done.
And the music kind of grows out of that?
Yeah. It just stems out of beats with no melody or an idea that I've had.
Do you guys put a lot of thought into the kind of chord progressions or cadences that you're going to go with?
Yes.
So with this EP being a lot different than the previous one,
Yeah.
what was the approach technically from a musical perspective?
I mean, for example, with Important, I had this just moment when I was by myself in my apartment. I wrote the whole thing in my head. From I have the recording from start to finish. Of course, without any instrumentation. So it's literally me, just saying, you don't, dun, 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 womp, womp, just singing out these ideas that I can hear perfectly in my head. So then I took that recording of Important, of just me singing, took it to Aaron, and just basically we built a beat off of that, and then went back in, And really, it's like trying to match pieces with just fucking cloud. Like, there's no solid form of melody. I don't know what notes I'm singing. So there would be a couple hours where I'm just like trying to find that 4-note progression on a keyboard, and which can take a while.
Yeah.
And then you start going on these rabbit trails of like, oh, this synth sounds amazing. And so it's just, some days where it felt like we were just going on rabbit trail after rabbit trail. But once we got that solid form down, it's pretty, it's like the fun part. You get to put all the fix-ins and throw them in the mix. And I just wanted something with that song, with Important in particular, like a little bit of goof, to kind of lift it out of itself. I wanted it to just be a fun record. And so there was just a lot of experimentation that really didn't see a full form until, the last recording days. So,
can we hear another song?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are you going to play for us?
I'm going to play a song from Smut. It's a song called One Hit, One Wonder. Yeah, yeah. I had this feeling that I had pent up on the inside. The floor to the ceiling had my body reeling, that's why I go hot and cold, pull me close, my temperature rising. I say, give me your touch, you're getting warmer. Hot and cold, pull me close. One hit, one wonder, one hit, one wonder, one hit, one wonder. One hit, one wonder, one hit, one wonder. You're mine. It's a look that you give me, I see it deep in your eyes. Like a force of nature that I'm too weak to deny. If my body language is your consolation to pass the time, let's put it in motion. I'm secretly hoping that's why I go hot and cold, pull me close, my temperature rising. I say, give me your touch, you're getting warmer. One hit, one wonder, one hit, one wonder, one hit, one wonder. You're mine. One hit, one wonder, one hit, one wonder, one hit, one wonder. You're mine. One hit, one wonder, one hit, one wonder, one hit, one wonder. You're mine. One hit, one wonder, one hit, one wonder, one hit, one wonder. Give me your touch. Yeah, yeah. Give me your touch. One hit, one wonder, one hit, one wonder, one hit, one wonder. One hit, one wonder, one hit, one wonder, one hit, one wonder. One hit, one wonder, one hit, one wonder, one hit, one wonder. One hit, one wonder, one hit, one wonder, one hit, one wonder. Give me your touch. You're getting warmer. Yeah, yeah.
So what's next for you musically?
Well, I would love to start recording again.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
so soon.
Yeah, I really want to focus on kind of making a consistent schedule for myself. It's very easy for me to like release something and just kind of float into the abyss, like, and just be like, well, I did something. And then time passes and you're like, I should really be consistent with this and treat it like the job that it is. So I would like to, I mean, Rob and I have talked about getting together. I've got some shows coming up that I really want to put my creative focus on that first, but I imagine I'll start recording
Some shows in New York?
No. In Texas, actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I'm going to do a little one-off here and there, cute little bop over and a bop back.
Where and when?
Well, the big one that I'm getting ready for is I'm playing with the Dallas Symphony Orchestra, which is like, I know, holy shit was my thought too. It's been a bucket lister for quite some time, and that's in February, but I'm, working with the Dallas Symphony. So there's a lot of like arrangement, string arrangement parts and just coordinating with.
They're going to do strings over your songs?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
I know.
Oh, that's super exciting.
I'm wigging out.
Are you going to be part of the whole arrangement and orchestration of it?
Yes.
Holy.
So I'm trying to just, my brain is just so like military trained to be like, we're playing Phoenix, Arizona in a tiny little shithole. Like, give them rock, so I'm really trying to like think about it in every detailed aspect just to elevate it from, the usual set that I would play.
How are you going to balance the heartbreak songs with the Arm and Crawl happiness songs?
This is a great question. I am not quite sure yet. But the string players will have a lot to do with that. So I'm working on the majority of where my mental space is now is like just like thinking about transitions.
Yeah.
And trying to visualize that. And because, there's so many times like where I have an idea of like something works so perfectly in my head. Like everything's in the same key in my head. And so I'm really just focusing on how to make Clementine connect with small talk, how do I make that jump?
Jeez, you could tell like a whole narrative with all the music that you have. You could like put on a Broadway musical show or something.
Well, I'm almost I'm trying to think about it in that way, but when I start thinking about it in that way, I feel like my pretentiousness like just really comes to life. But there's no way not to be precious about it. Like when you're putting 30 of your own songs together, you're like, I am starring in my own musical. But I'm just gonna run with it. I'm just so thrilled about playing with the Dallas Symphony and all of my bandmates, my pals on stage. So I'm really trying to be diligent about every single aspect.
Sounds like it's going to be pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Yeah.
So we want to make sure we have time for one more song, but where can people find you? Where can they check out the tour dates? Where can they get tickets to the Dallas Symphony?
Yeah.
Listen to all 30 songs about you and your life.
God.
How's that sound coming out of someone else's mouth?
Terrible, my friend, terrible. But you should buy tickets. You can find all of the links and info of showtimes on my website, which is www.sarahjaffe.com.
Any Instagram, Facebook?
Yeah, I do have Instagram. It's SAYJAFFE, Say Jaffe. That's where you can find me on Instagram, and Twitter's the same. So
cool. Amazing. Well, big thank you to Chef Escanes. Sarah, thank you for joining us. Jeet,
thank you.
Thank you, my man.
Thank you.
Welcome
Jeet.
to the hot seat. It's good to have you here. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week with another episode of Snacky Tunes. What is the name of the last song?
We're going to close out with another song from Smut called Important.
Amazing. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
You don't shock me. But you surprise me. Reality TV. There's not much going on. Same words, same song. just like everyone else, but it feels important to see. 'Cause you're important to me. Important to me. You got me surrounded. Emergency. I feel it coming on. Toss and turn all night long. Am I getting ahead of myself? It feels important to see. 'Cause you're important to me. Important to me. We talk about food, we talk about music with musical dudes. Finger on the pulse, snacky tunes.
Snacky Tunes is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.